Mark, you got us?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, Stewart. Can you hear me?
Yes, I got you, Mark.
Good. All right. You all set, Jeff?
Yeah, we're ready, rock and roll.
Okay. We'd like to welcome Stewart Cink to the virtual interview room at the Tour Championship, the final event of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Stewart, thanks for joining us and making some time this morning. It was a wet, ugly day outside, so I'm sure you're happy to be inside. You arrived here at number 23 in the FedEx Cup after a great season, winning twice, the Fortinet Championship, the first one of the season, and then this year the RBC Heritage. I think that's your first multiple win season since 2004. And it's actually your first trip back here to East Lake since 2009. I mean, you just got to, how does that feel for you to be back here?
It's incredibly satisfying to be back here. It just feels so good to be included in this field and to know that you've done what it took to qualify. It's not easy. The players are just amazingly talented and skilled out there, and so to be in this field itself is a real accomplishment. And I recognize that, especially at my age, and it's been a while since I was here. So it's a really exciting time for our family, for me, and I can't wait to compete out here this year.
Yeah, and before we take questions, I'll just remind the media on the call here, just if you have a question, just type in your name and we'll call on you. And in the meantime, just keep your video and microphones off until we call on you. And then just the second question, you come in here, I'll preface this by saying when you won the RBC in 2004, you were 9 shots back going into the final round. That's got to be some sort of record to come back from that amount of shots. But you're 9 shots back today, starting the round here. What does that feel like? How can you adjust to that situation?
Well, I made up 9 shots in 1 round in 2004. I don't see why I can't do it in 4 rounds. It seems real easy, doesn't it? Oh yeah, it's a little daunting to know that you're playing against the best players of the year, and you have a 9-shot deficit before you even tee the ball up. But to be honest, I think if that was 1,000 over, I'd still be happy to play here. It's just it's a great challenge. Really, I mean, for me and the guys in the 20s here, maybe in the 15 to 30 range, we don't really have anywhere to go but up. So why not just go out there and give it everything and see how well we can focus and battle this golf course for 4 days and give it all, and then we can rest after this. But it's a really cool format to be a part of, and there's not going to be too many people in the end that get to say, yeah, I played at the Tour Championship in this format. So it's really going to be a fun experience, and I'm interested to see how I respond to it, without really any formal scores on the scorecard, on the scoreboard necessarily. It's not like you're trying to shoot 64 every day. We're really just trying to just gain ground on the leaders.
Absolutely. All right, we've got a few people lined up, so we'll go to Daniel Rappaport first. Daniel, if you turn your video on and microphone and shoot away.
Hey, Stuart. I think you and Sergio might be the only ones who were playing on tour in the pre-FedEx Cup era who are here now. So I'm curious, from your vantage point, how has the FedEx Cup evolved or changed as far as where it ranks in the priority level of players? It's obviously not major, but where does it fall as far as how high is it on your guys' list?
Well, first of all, I think we all have to recognize that the FedEx Cup's not trying to be a major. We're just, the idea, and I was actually on the policy board when the FedEx Cup was coming about. I was part of the original points structure, which I will claim very little responsibility for since it's been overhauled about 4 times since then. But it's not trying to be a major. It's doing exactly what it was intended to do, and that is look at these fields. I mean, look at Northern Trust and BMW and now Tour Championship presented by Coca-Cola. Players are here and playing, and if you look back to the pre-FedEx Cup days, the players that were ranked at the top really weren't playing very much once we got past the PGA, and then the Tour Championship was almost like an afterthought in November. So it's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Players are arranging their schedules around being ready to go for these playoff events. It's hot, they're compact, and you physically have to be ready to go to be competitive. And so no, not a major, but that's never been the intention of the FedEx Cup, and it's really fun to be a part of it, and I think the fans are enjoying it, and it's a good product on television. Players are playing.
Right, I wasn't trying to suggest that it was trying to be a major, but what I was trying to get at was, beyond just the money, which is obviously a huge draw, we're all human beings, and $15 million and $15 million, is this something that you feel like, the great players are now saying, okay, I want to win the majors, players, and FedEx Cup is something that I want in my resume when I hang it up?
Absolutely, and whether it's the FedEx Cup, whether being the winner and having the trophy and the 15 million is, that debatably is very, very important. Whether it's that or whether it's knowing you did what it takes to outlast everybody and eventually be the winner in this format, I think that's the most satisfying part of it to me is if I were to be able to win this, to know that I outlasted everybody and I was the last guy standing. That to me would mean the most. And $15 million, don't get me wrong, is just an unbelievable sum for playing golf. But I think to me, though, it would mean even more knowing that I went down that gauntlet and I stuck to my guns and I did what it took and I stared down everybody. This field is just superb. And so to me, that's what would mean the most.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. Hey, from now on, gents, if we can just keep it to one question each. We've got a few lined up. We'll come back to you with a second once we get through. So we'll go to Rex Hoggett from Golf Channel. Go ahead, Rex.
Stewart, this is kind of in reaction to what Bryce and team have been going through the last couple of weeks with fans. What's the worst thing you've heard directed at you from a fan while you've been playing? And at what point do they step over the line, in your opinion?
Well, I don't really hear a whole lot of bad stuff necessarily. Not personally at me. I hear plenty of bad stuff that fans just like to yell at golfers or any athletes in other sports too. But mostly I just kind of shed that off, and it's kind of fun to hear that. If we're expecting to be one of the major sports and play for the kind of money that we're playing for and have the sponsors and attract the fans, then you got to kind of be ready to perform in front of big league type fans, and that's kind of what we're seeing now. This year I did play a lot of golf with Patrick Reed, and I played quite a few rounds with Bryson, and so it's a little different hearing the two personalities of the fan group with those two guys, but I did hear some pretty astonishing things when I played with Patrick, and I love playing with Patrick Reed. He and I just laugh about it when we hear it, and I can't believe that there hasn't been a murder yet in the crowd. But it's pretty intense, and I think in the end the fans sometimes just like to hear themselves, and they like to be able to yell out something and then poke their buddy and say, "Did you hear me? I said something like that," and it's maybe a little childish, but I think the players out here don't get too rankled by it necessarily because it's not really a personal thing. I think in a one-on-one situation, those fans that yell probably wouldn't be quick to say those same things in a one-on-one situation. So it's more about just getting the laugh out of your buddies, and it comes at the expense to a certain extent of the player that it's directed to, but big boys out here. You got to be big boys if you want to play in this game, and that's just the way it is.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Rex. Next, we'll go to Bob Harrod, ESPN. Go ahead, Bob.
Thanks, Mark. Hi, Stewart. Wanted to go back to the format for a sec. Last time you played, obviously, there was 2 trophies at stake. Now there's only 1. What's your thoughts on if you shoot the lowest 72-hole score this week and you might not come away with any trophy?
I think the format is known by all players in the field before you start, and that's kind of the way it is. We could argue that it's just like would I skip the match play next year because I might shoot a lower score than my opponent and not win? I don't think I'd be skipping that tournament for that reason. And so same thing here. I just don't think that is really a big factor. It's where you start. I'm -1. There's a guy -10. I've got ground to catch up if I want to win this thing, and it's a lot of ground. And if I don't, if I fall short, if I finish last, whatever, doesn't matter what the scorecard says. It's the format that we're playing under.
Very good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thanks, Bob. We'll go to Steve Hummer with the AGC. Go ahead, Steve.
Stewart, a question about the guy everybody's chasing today, Patrick. do you see him as anyway kind of underrated by the general golf public? And what in his game is going to make him tough to catch this week?
Hey, Steve, I wouldn't necessarily call him underrated, but I might call him underappreciated. And the reason is because he doesn't have any one particular thing that just makes him like, you want to drool over that. Like Rory's got the driving, Dustin Johnson, they have the driving, and I love watching those guys hit it too. And Patrick just doesn't have any one thing that stands out, but that's what makes him such a great player, is that he doesn't have anything that is a weakness either. He's plenty long, he hits plenty of fairways, he's got a massive short game, he's tough under the gun, and he's a great putter. I mean, I know golf pretty well, you know it pretty well. You tell me if I'm missing anything here. He's just the whole package, and he doesn't get super excited out there. So I think a lot of fans want that explosion of emotion, and Patrick doesn't give it to him, so they might pass over him in favor of another player. But that's why I would call him maybe underappreciated by the fans. Certainly in the locker room in here, you're not going to find one player that underappreciates him, because his record stands alone, and we all played golf with him and seen how he plays and goes about his business. So underappreciated, not underrated.
Thanks for supplying a better adjective.
You're the writer, not me. Sorry.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Steve. Next we'll go to Adam Schupak, Golf Week. Adam, go ahead.
Hey, Stewart. In this super season, nobody's really separated themselves as the player of the year, in my opinion anyway. I'm wondering who at this point do you think you're going to vote for? What is your criteria for that? And how much does this week impact who you will vote for?
Oh boy. Well, if I was voting for that, I would probably, and first of all, do we vote for that? I forget. I think we vote for that. I think I would count the FedEx Cup up there with the majors as far as player of the year voting, because I know what it takes to survive all this and to be the eventual number one. This year we have 6 majors, I think, on the calendar. So there's a lot to consider. There's a lot of players who have played great and also not great at times. And so that's interesting. It's going to be a really tough choice for player of the year. And you're right, no one has really just like established themselves as the clear-cut guy. So I don't know, but I mean, the answer to the one part of your question would be that I will count the FedEx Cup as alongside the majors as far as player of the year consideration.
You don't have a name? You don't have
I guess when I think of this year, I just think it's kind of been defined by Bryson. Just because, I mean, he's played awesome at times. He's been like a magnet for the world of golf to come and watch, and the feud, make that whatever you want out of that. But it's just he's fun to watch. He's revolutionized the game. He's just had some incredible wins and losses, and so I would probably choose Bryson right now if I had to pick. Now I haven't considered everybody, and I may be way off and forgetting somebody, but I just think Bryson has been the guy that would be probably he'd be carrying the torch for me right now.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Just before we go to Shane Ryan at Golf Digest, if you have any other questions, just type them in, and we'll see if we've got time for 2 or 3 more after Shane. Go ahead, Shane.
Hey, Stewart. In most other, or maybe all other American sports, there's an acceptance of the fact that you have to win the big game at the end, the Super Bowl, the World Series, whatever it may be. For example, in football, if you went 17-0 like the Patriots did but lost the Super Bowl, nobody would really say that was unfair. It feels like in golf, there's a lot of resistance traditionally to the idea of the person winning the championship event is the champion, regardless of whether through the rest of the year they were the 15th best player or whatever. Why do you think that's different in golf than everything else we watch here in America?
I don't really know, to be honest. I mean, to be number one in other sports, you do have to finish with a win at some point. World Series, Stanley Cup, Super Bowl, list goes on. Yeah, agreed. But golf is just a little bit different animal from those other sports, and it'd be different if we didn't have majors. We do have majors, you know. I mean, it's hard to say. It's hard to say because I don't think there's anything that's invalid about the FedEx Cup claiming the top player for the season. And we're talking about the top player on the PGA Tour for the season. It doesn't mean that you didn't win the Masters or you didn't win the U.S. Open. It just means you're the top player in the FedEx Cup. And the FedEx Cup is its own thing, and it is a little confusing. But I mean, let's take hockey. You know, sometimes I know hockey a little bit, but I believe every other year there's a World Championships, and some of the NHL players go and play in that. And if they win that, but their team doesn't qualify for the Stanley Cup, does that mean that that player didn't win the World Championships on their team? It doesn't. So it's like a season within the season. All the majors are almost like their own season. That yeah, they count towards the FedEx Cup, but it's golf is just a little bit different. And I think if people are arguing that the only way you should be the winner of the year is to win the last tournament, then I just don't think that really holds much water when golf is such a long calendar season. There's so many shots and there's so many players. I mean, it's not like if it was a match play thing every week and you just came down to the final two and the winner was the winner, then great. But we whittle it down pretty far to get to 30 when there's usually 156 each week.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Mm.
All right, we've got a couple more lined up here, Stewart, for you. We've got Adam Schupak. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, Stewart, John Rahms next in that hot seat you're at right now. What have you noticed in his maturity as he's climbed to world number one in the past few years?
I think that we don't see the complaining anymore on the golf course. Maybe it's because we don't see much to complain about on the golf course either, but we don't see John emotionally giving away energy by, complaining about a result, a lip out, a bad bounce, or something like that. And I think that's a huge sign of maturity. I don't know if somebody got a hold of him or if he just understood himself, but he just is on full go. And he's rocketed, his potential was always there, and he really never had a rough patch. But man, he is just all systems go at the moment. And probably to me, my favorite story this year from the world of golf was him winning the U.S. Open after what happened at Muirfield. And so I think a lot of people would agree with that. It was good to see Jon Rahm get that win after that tragic moment in Ohio. So, but yeah, he's definitely lost that little bit of complaint. He seems like now that when something bad happens he doesn't like, he might grumble about it for 2 or 3 seconds, but then he goes on and he gets over it quickly and he's back in. And so he would probably admit too that maybe that hurt him at the very beginning of his career, but it didn't take long to recognize it. I mean, the guy doesn't have very many weaknesses, so when you do have something that can be improved, it's easy to identify, and he's done a good job of it.
Okay, and one more, if you don't mind. Do you feel like a big week this week could help you for the Ryder Cup? Do you still have aspirations for that?
Of course I have aspirations for it. I think I probably need to, whatever you call winning this tournament. I need to play really great, and I don't know. I mean, I probably have, I think winning 2 times, yes, I've done enough to be in consideration, but I don't think I've been quite consistent enough to really be one of those like last remaining few guys that they're considering for a pick. I would love to be a part of the Ryder Cup again. It just means so much to me, and it's so fun. But I would probably need to make an enormous splash here this week to be one of the guys on that little final list.
Thanks.
You got it.
Okay, thanks, Adam. And Stewart, we'll just take one more question for Steve Hummer, and we'll wrap it up. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, Stuart, we saw a couple guys go 27 under last week. What are the defenses this place has in place, and how will it defend itself against that kind of onslaught, I guess?
These are 2 very different kind of golf courses between Caves Valley and East Lake. The one similarity they have is that neither of them are very punishing off the tee from a penalty stroke perspective. Like you have the 8th hole here, which is a dangerous drive, and you got water up the left side. But other than that, you just got rough and trees. And Caves Valley was a lot like that, where you could hit the ball kind of all over the place, and there wasn't a huge penalty. The rough wasn't that bad. The bunkers were very forgiving. At Eastlake, the rough, on the other hand, is very bad, and it's a major penalty for not hitting the fairway. So driving is much more of a premium here just because of the rough. You're not going to lose a lot of golf balls here. You're not going to hit balls in the OB or the water that often here, but you will lose strokes by hitting a ball in the rough because you just simply can't reach the green very often. And so that's the main difference between here and Caves Valley. Caves, you could hit it kind of all over the place. The greens were receptive. They were very large. So I would think that statistically it was probably one of the highest greens in regulation averages for any tournament in history on the PGA Tour. That would be a stat you'd have to go and dig for, but it was relatively easy to hit your ball on the green, and the greens were just immaculate. So you saw low scoring. Here at Eastlake, the greens are challenging. They're slopey, they're going to be quick, and the rough is severe. So this course has much more of a resistance to scoring. You're not going to see a lot of triples and quads at Eastlake, but you just don't see that many birdies either. It's a tough course to really shoot low on, and I think that's why the players love it. It's straightforward. It just asks you to be very, very precise with your tee balls, and it's got everything really you could ask for in a golf course.
All right, Stewart, I think that's it. We appreciate your time. Have a great week this week at the Tour Championship, and enjoy it once this rain goes away.
All right, you got it. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Stuart. Awesome. Appreciate it, bud.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you.